With Adobe Fresco, it's super easy to take a static illustration like this one and turn it into something like this. Cool, right? All right, let's head over to my iPad and I'll show you how to do it. All right, so I think I'll get started with these lightning bolts. What I want to do is just have them look like they're kind of moving around the car and just flickering and just looking like this whole thing is electric, boogie, woogie, woogie. So what we'll do is come down to the bottom right, hit this little animation sequence thing, and then we will hit plus to make a new frame. And here you will see that our lightning bolts have become less opaque, got a little bit lighter. What this is something called onion skins, and that is a tool in animation that allows you to see the previous frames and the next frames so that you can use them as reference as you're drawing new ones. If you don't see this, you would just come into your settings and make sure onion skin is toggled on. And then here you can control how many frames you see and how much opacity they have. So I'm gonna set this to a little bit lower. I'm gonna leave it at 1 so I just see the previous frame or the next frame. And I'm just gonna come in here. I'm gonna grab the classic inker from Retro Supply Co. that I drew this with. It's one of my favorite inking brushes. There's a link below if you want to check it out. It's from their liner set. And if you're new to Fresco, Fresco uses Photoshop brushes. I'm gonna make sure that my smoothing is turned all the way down because I need to get that jittery electric line. And then I'm just gonna come in here and use the previous lines as like a guide, but then kind of make them longer and just sort of wiggle differently so it's a little bit spazzy like electricity. And I'm just kind of continuing the path so it's sort of like wrapping around the car a little bit. I'm just coming, finding all these. Maybe this can come up over. I'm just making it move a little bit at a time. So it's like traveling along a path. Maybe make this look like it's going behind. Same with this one. Cool, and now we can go ahead and make a new frame by just hitting that little plus button. So I'll just continue that same sort of path I was drawing. This is very forgiving because these are just sort of like lightning lines and they're sort of spazzy and flashy, so you don't need to worry about being perfect, and who wants to be perfect anyway? Perfect is boring. What's the point of perfect? I want there to be some life to this. As you can see, I'm not really thinking too hard about this. I'm just kind of wiggling it around. So I think I want this to be sort of a loop of 4. I think that's enough that it'll have that flashy look and not be too tedious. But I want it to sort of loop so that it like looks like a continuous cycle. So in order to do that, I'm gonna go ahead and duplicate this first frame to use as a guide. So duplicate that, and then I'm gonna drag it to the end of the sequence. And now when I make my new frame, I will be able to see the frame that I just drew and the first one. And this will help me to sort of make some lines that can like bring them back together. So for example, this darker one is the first frame. So I'm gonna make it look like that one is starting from behind the building. And then I'll just sort of like continue these other ones. And I think I'll make these a little bit lighter so maybe they look like they're sort of dissolving for the loop. We'll do the same thing here. Make this one start. And then maybe these can get a little bit thinner. Also doing this, like thinning them out will make it look a little bit more like flashy, like light. Even like broken lines will help. Like you can see I'm sort of doing like dashed lines a bit. Let's go ahead and delete that last frame because that was just a reference. And now we hit play. And I think that's looking pretty cool. All right, let's move on. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is make the car sort of wiggle a little bit. So I'm just going to merge these layers together so that it's all just one thing for the car. I'm going to come down to the little timeline option thing, and I'm going to duplicate this 8 times. The reason I'm doing 8 is because I want this whole thing to loop consistently. Because the first lightning sequence was 4 frames, I need it to be divisible by 4. And the reason I'm not doing 4 frames is because I don't want the car to be shaking the whole time. I want it to shake. It's going to be pretty often, but just not as much as the lightning thing. So we got 8 of the cars. So what I'm going to do is come to the middle point. I'm going to come to frame 5, and I'm going to go to the transform tool, and I'm going to choose frame. So it's just so I'm just transforming this frame and not all the frames. So I'm going to hit transform here. Let's go with distort, and maybe pull corners out a little bit, maybe squat it down. This is very experimental for me. Like, I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen, but I'm going to sort of play around with it. I'm going to do the same thing here. Grab the transform tool, just do that frame. Maybe do distort. Maybe on this one, we'll kind of pull it up a little bit. Trying to keep it like, I don't want it to go, the wheels to go down below, because then it might look awkward. So we'll hit done. And I can scroll through and like see what that's looking like. I think that might be pretty cool. We might be okay with just 2. So let's play that. Cool. Let me try one more frame. So we've got that, squats down, back up. Then maybe we'll do one more squat down. So transform, frame. I'm going to go to distort, pull that down, pull that over a little bit. All right, let's see what this looks like. Just a little bounce, just gives it a little bit of life, a little bit of energy. And now because the car is being like electrocuted, I want the lights to flash a little bit, just so it feels like it's going crazy. It's about to time travel. Got all these different frames here already. I think what I'll do is on these transformed frames, I'm gonna make the brake lights look like they're turning on. So I'm just gonna change it to like a bright red for those frames. I'm gonna go ahead and turn off onion skin so I can see the color without it being overlaid onto another thing. So I'm gonna eyedropper this pink and then come in here and just get like a more bright red. Then I'm just gonna fill in this pink. I'm gonna adjust the margin here so it's not filling in the orange. And maybe we'll do it on this one too. And I think we should do it to the orange as well, just so it looks like they're both lighting up. So I'm just gonna make it a more reddish orange. Not that one, this one. Okay, you know what, maybe we should do it on these little turn signal things too. It's subtle, but I think it'll be a nice addition. So let's see what this looks like. Cool, it's a little subtle, but I think it'll be nice. And I think when we put some glow off of it, I think it'll be even better. I just want to see what it looks like if we do one more frame of the lights on. Cool, I like that. I think that is good. Now let's make the lights look like they're flashing. So I'm gonna go ahead and make a new layer. And just grab like a yellow color. I think I may actually use the taillights as a guide because it can be a little tricky proportionally or perspectively to see where that front headlight would come from. So I'm just gonna make like a triangle for that beam, like that. Close that up like that. And we can use that as a starting point and then fill that in. And then I'm going to duplicate that, bring it over to this side, make it just a teeny bit smaller because it's behind. And now I'm going to group these together by dragging them onto each other and then just move it to the front. Let's cancel this. Let's just calm down, bring down the opacity. Let's put it behind the car. Now let's make it so that I can see where these are, where they overlap. Sorry, I got very confused there. Okay, so now if we put this one where that one goes, then the other one looks like it's roughly in the right spot. So we can go ahead and crop that. All is well there. What we're gonna do now is turn off that one and let's start with this first one here. So what I'm gonna do is make a selection of this light and then I'm gonna turn that off and I'm gonna make a new layer and I'm gonna grab this very perfect for this situation brush that Kyle Webster made, which you can find in his painting brushes. If you go into all the brushes and then painting, you'll find it. It's called Color Fill. And this brush has a lot of pressure sensitivity and gets really light. And it's gonna make the perfect light beam. I'm just gonna start painting this in and I can kind of go over it at the beginning to make the light a little bit brighter at the start, and then just sort of fade out towards the end like that. And I'm going to go ahead and make a new frame. And I'm going to, I want it to not be the same. Like I want it to like look like it's flickering light from the electricity. So maybe this one is brighter. Another one. Maybe this one's a little more dim. I'm trying to decide if we should do a 4 sequence or an 8. You know what? I don't want the lights to flash all the time, so I'm gonna make 8 frames here. Let's deselect that and then hit play. All right, I think that's looking pretty good, but I think I want maybe a little bit more of the lights going. I'm gonna skip 1 frame so that they go out and then kind of pop back in a little bit. So I'm gonna go to this selection tool, and you'll see here, if we go into this menu, we can load last selection, and then we can pull this selection back up, and then I can use that to paint this shape again. Press later. You really just want to do light strokes when you're doing this brush to get that really smooth effect. So let's deselect that, and let's play that. Let me see what it looks like if I put more space between that flash. Yeah, I think that's a little bit better. And now we will do the same thing for the other side. So we don't need that anymore. I'm gonna go over here, grab the magic wand, turn that off, then make a new layer for this one, and we will just paint this in. Another one. Maybe make this one a little brighter. Trying to synchronize it with the other headlight because I feel like they would kick on at the same time. All right, let's see what this looks like. I think it's looking pretty cool. Now let's do it for the brake lights. So we'll do the exact same thing. Let's get rid of this other thing, make a new layer here. I'm gonna grab this red color. I'm gonna switch back to the classic anchor to make that shape. Draw this triangular shape off of the tail light, just like we did for the headlights. Fill that in, bring the opacity down so we can see what we're doing for the other one. I'm gonna duplicate that, and then put this one back here, and make it a teeny bit smaller. Okay, so now I'm just gonna do exactly what I did for the headlights. All right, cool, now let's animate the lettering a little bit. I guess at some point I should just acknowledge this silly dad joke that this drawing is, but I have 0 flux given. I don't even know how to use that. So I drew the 0 flux lettering with this sort of, staticky electric look. And what I'm gonna do to animate this is just make that flicker. I mean, you saw it at the beginning of the thing. So we're gonna just redraw it 3 times so that we have a loop of 4. And I'm going to make that white line sort of flicker inside the letters as well. I'm gonna click on this layer, turn on the animation thing, then just make a new frame. I'm gonna turn on my onion skins again so I can see it. I'm actually gonna turn off the car because I don't wanna deal with that right now. I'm gonna come back to this first frame so I can select the color. I'm gonna switch back to the classic anchor, and I'm literally just going to redraw this 3 times, staying close to the shape of the letters, but letting that outside edge wiggle quite a bit. I think maybe on one of the frames, I'm gonna make it just a tiny bit smaller, nothing too dramatic, because if it's too dramatic, it's gonna like flash and look odd. I'm gonna trace it closely, just make it a little bit smaller at one point, and then we'll loop that sequence. All right, let's see how it looks. Okay, cool. So that's what I was going for. As you can see, I didn't change the shape of the letters too much, but I just sort of focused on that outer edge to make it sort of wiggle and vibrate. And then on the inner white line, I just sort of traced it the same way, but then on one of those frames, I made it break apart a little bit to just make it look a little bit more electrical. Okay, so for given, I just want to give it a little bit of wiggle. This is referred to as the line boil, which is just what happens when you redraw something a bunch of times and it changes and wiggles a little bit. So I'm just going to redraw this word 3 times so that it has a 4-frame loop, so we keep everything in sequences of 4. And then I think I will have the white line move through the letters, so it just sort of goes on a path through the letters. So I'm not going to make you watch that whole process because it's going to be pretty tedious, and I'm literally going to be tracing it, as close as I can without being psychotic. And that's what you want to do to get a natural line boil. So again, I'm just going to trace it 3 times, put in the white lines afterwards, and I'll show you how I'm going to set that up. Okay, so I have given and drawn a bunch of times here. I drew it 4 different times, but then I duplicated the sequence so that I had 8 frames. As you can see here, so it just wiggles a little bit. And then what I did was, let me actually turn off the onion skin so you can see what I'm talking about here. So I have none of the white lines on the G on the first one, and then it pulls in to the G, and then in the next frame I put it in the I, and then the V, E, N, and then nothing, 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 until it comes back in and loops again. So let's play this all together. I just think that has a fun line, just moving throughout the word like that. And then the last thing that I want to do to pull this all together is to just make these outer wiggly lines do the same thing as the other letters. So I'm just going to make them wiggle. So to do this, I'm just going to trace them 3 times so that we have a loop of 4. For your reference, if you're trying to do this in your own work, a loop of 3 frames works really well. That will give a natural rhythm and not look repetitive. The only reason I'm doing 4 as opposed to 3 is because I made it more difficult for myself by doing 4 in the original sequence, and you need to make them match throughout. Because in Fresco, each layer has its own timeline, so if they don't sync up, they'll get out of sync as they play because they're playing different amounts of frames. So keep them all in the same sort of sequence, and then your loop will not get all weird. Okay, so I redrew all of these little lines, and I did the same thing that I did with the lines in the center of the zero flux lettering, where on one of them, I broke up the line a little bit just to make it feel a little bit more electric. Let's give this a play. And there we go, that's the whole thing. I am pretty satisfied with this. I hope you like it too. I hope you are inspired to bring your drawings to life. If so, if you post them online somewhere on social media, be sure to tag me at Chris Piascik. And hey, if you want to binge an entire playlist chock full of Adobe Fresco tips and tutorials, check this out. There's a lot of good stuff in there. All right, good talk.